Today we're going to create the design that you see on the screen. It's a hose coupler. Let's say, for example, I was power washing my deck and the coupler that connected the hose or allowed a connection of the hose to the power washer broke, and I needed to design a new one. So I've identified a problem, the solution. We've got a design on the screen that provides a solution. It allows the water to flow into the power washer and be pressurized. There's a couple different ways of doing this. This particular one would just take a flat uh, edge of a hose and it would slide on and then be clamped. You'd use a clamp over top of the hose to put pressure on it and make it keep it from leaking. The image on the right shows the dimensions of our design. So now we're just starting out in our venture into CAD. This is one of our first projects, and I'm going to break this project into several videos. And we're going to take it slow and easy. The dimensions image that you're seeing in front of you has all the information we need to create our design. But all the dimensions aren't stated. That means there are certain dimensions that we'll have to calculate. All right. For example, we do not know the overall height of the design. If we look up here, we know this base area is 3 millimeters, okay, tall. All the measurements are in millimeters. We know we've got a edge. This edge is not squared off. It's going to require a fillet, and it's going to have a radius of 1.88 millimeters. Okay. If we're reading this first section that is elevated from the top of the base, this section right here represents the base. This right here, there's that 3 millimeters. We know that this first section then is 5.63 millimeters in height. Then this carve out and this carve out are both 3.75 millimeters. This section is 7.5 millimeters, and this section is 5.63 millimeters tall. Well, with all that in mind, we can come up with the height of the design, can't we? If we were to add the 5.63, 3.75, 7.5, 3.75, and 5.63, we're going to get 29.26 millimeters for the height of our project. You're going to have to be able to do that in this class. I'm not going to give you all the dimensions all the time. You're going to have to be able to take the information you have and create or derive the dimensions that you need. So the process is going to involve looking at your diagram, understanding what information you have, what information you need, and how to calculate or derive that information that you need. So we're going to start off our design, moving to the next step, our base area. Now, this is a top view of the base, and it gives us some information. All right. Um, it tells us that this outer circle from the center point, well, let's just start there. Let's back up. This design, this base design here, if we go around this edge, is circular. Okay. So the circle tool in our sketching is going to be kind of our primary tool, the sketching. The sketching is the foundation of our design. It's two-dimensional. Okay. The diagram on the right is an example of the two-dimensional design. Okay, the one on the left is three-dimensional. So the sketch will provide us with our dimensions, our geometry, and our positioning. Okay, and it is the foundation that will allow us to create our three-dimensional design. So if we look at this and notice what that are, that defines a radius. You should know what a radius is. Okay, in a circular object, the radius is the measurement from the center point to the edge. All right, it's not a dimension or a diameter. A diameter is from edge to edge going through the middle, and that's the total width. The radius is half the diameter. That's a key point because we're going to need to identify what the diameter is in this particular case now that we know we're going to be using circles to create our sketch. We have a radius provided to us, not a diameter. We need to know the diameter to create the circle in the sketching tool. If I just said the radius is half the diameter, if we have the radius, that means we're going to multiply the radius by 2 to come up with the diameter. All right. So our outer circle is going to have a radius of 22.5 millimeters. 22.5 times 2, that's 45 millimeters. We have this other measurement. This is to the center point of these holes out here, where these holes are what we will use to connect the coupler to the other object. And this, the example I used earlier, would be the pressure washer. We know that the radius to the center point of those holes is 26.27 millimeters. Multiply that by 2. That gives us a diameter of 52.54 millimeters. All right, you can check me on a calculator. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's go to Fusion. All right, I've got a new design here. And I'm going to start off, there's my clean canvas. All right. And I'm going to start off the sketch, a new sketch, and I'm going to create it from the top bottom plane. I'm going to draw my initial circle. All right. And that initial circle will be, let's draw it, what did I say? 52.54 or millimeters. And there's my initial circle. All right. Now, how do I know that this is millimeters? Well, over here in my document settings, this is the browser. My document settings, the units are defined as millimeters here. If I needed to change that, if I was doing my design in inches, I could click on the edit icon here and change it. There, that box comes up and that window would allow me to change it. All right, but we want to stay in millimeters. So I've drawn my first circle, 52.54 millimeters. And the next circle that I want to draw inside of that, which is the actual edge here of our base, is 22.5. So there, see, that marks the measurement, 22.5. So it's a radius. 22.5 times 2 is going to be 45 millimeters. All right, so I'm going to draw my center diameter circle. I'm going to click on the center point, that point. This is the 42.5. The center point that I clicked on to begin with is referred to as the origin. We always want to center our designs on the origin of the canvas. and hit enter. And there's my second circle, 42.5 millimeters. Now that is actually the edge of my design, okay, that I drew here. This edge that goes around this way. The 52.54 millimeter circle represents the center point of these three circles that I have out here. All right. Now, we're going to start these off with circles. We're going to fillet that edge later to smooth it out. All right. And create this, alter the shape to where it's got this little curve here. But this is going to start off as a circle. And we know from right here in the diagram that the radius of that circle from the center point of the hole to the outer edge is 6 millimeters. So it's a diameter of 12. There are 3 of them equally spaced around this outer circle. The top one has a horizontal relationship with the center point of the design. The hole inside is 2.81 millimeters as far as the radius. So that's what? Going to be 5.62 millimeters in diameter. I'll check my math on that in a minute. I'm working that in my head. So what we're going to need is, coming back to our design, is from this outer circle, we're going to draw a circle here that's 12 millimeters in diameter, and a second circle inside of it that is 5.62 millimeters in diameter. So I'm going to stop the video here. It's a good point to pause, and we'll come back and finish this design. We're limited in length that we can make these videos, so I have to keep them under 15 minutes.